All right, so last part missing for the ship simulation is the whitewater and the mist. So let's jump over to our scene here. And so already, just with the setup that we already have for the pillars, it already looks quite good. We'll just do some minor adjustments here. First thing that we want to change is remove the additional whitewater source that we had for our pillars, where we had stuff from the top falling off to the side because the pillar was so thin, shooting through the water, not carrying much of it upwards. But what we can see here is there's a lot of stuff that is living on top of the ship. And so this is already doing that job for us. So let's just go ahead and disconnect this here. And then under the whitewater source, under extra sources, just tick off this add extra source. And then we're back to where we were before, since I think we didn't add anything in here. Yeah, correct. So just some small adjustments here. Curvature, let's just go a bit higher here, since I think for the curvature range, so we don't want to capture too much of this small stuff. So let's go for 4 and up to 10. Yeah, and that does get rid of a bit of the really small stuff, because we do really have to be careful how much we will be emitting into our whitewater source, since this can really explode. As you can see here, there's a lot of stuff that will be emitting. And then so next as the acceleration tabs, if we should change anything here, maybe for the max acceleration, let's just go a bit lower here, set this to 30 just so we get a bit more contrast there. The vorticity, I think we'll just leave that as is, or maybe just go a bit higher just to have a bit of a more softer fall off. Did that change anything? No. Okay, whatever, I'll just leave it as is. And then here on the side where we have our additional sourcing, let's just check this out. And straight off the bat, I think this should be fine for what we want to use it. We will just go ahead and, I mean, later we're going to be modifying the density field of this. So if we just do a volume wrangle here and just quickly check this out. So f at density is equals to a multiplier. Wrong symbol there. Not going to close with a 0. So let's go for 0.1 or something. Maybe even lower, 0.1. And if we look at this, I think this is going to be a nice addition that we can add in there as well. So we'll see if this works, and maybe we'll have to come back and tweak this later, but I don't really think so. So let's just go ahead and cache this here. So I'll see you in a bit. All right, we're done caching here. I think, let me see if when we split this all comes out. Yep, just as we saw it before. And so here in the modification for this main density field, I think this is quite low already, so maybe we can just go one little bit higher. I'm probably not going to change that much, but just add a bit of additional stuff here, since in the regular whitewater source there's not much going on here, but we do want to still have some stuff falling down there. And so here, just the combination of those two, just leave that as is. Here on the side where we have our whitewater volume, so basically the surface and the velocity field. If we check here, surface velocity, we were adding in the ship velocity. And this was because we were, or rather say the pillar's velocity. And this was because we had stuff on top of the pillar, but there was no velocity from the liquid. So basically it had a 0 velocity, and that's why we added this in here. So let's just get rid of that, since we're not using that additional whitewater emission on the top there. And let's quickly jump inside the whitewater solver here, just cancel this, turn off the simulation. And then the emission amount, let's have a look if we go down to, because we did set up a scatter based on that. So let's quickly have a look how many points we would be getting on this frame with our current settings here. And 5.3 million. Okay, this is quite a lot. So I think we're just going to go a bit lower on the density there. So if we go inside here and maybe go for 0.5, Let's just check how many points we would be getting now. Let's see. Yeah, 1.7 million. Think this should be okay. I mean, let's try this. It could be that it's too much because there is going to be a lot that will be emitting there. But let's just have a look and see if this works. So if we go back to our emission here, let's just have a look at this. And one thing that we want to remove is the bottom stuff here, since we don't want to have too much stuff going on here. So let's just create a fall off based off the height. Just quickly drop down a volume wrangle here. And let's just define our height multiplier. Done this already a couple of times. I should be familiar with this. The height multiplier is equals to our fitted y position. So v at p dot y, oops, and then our min value, and then the max value. And this is going to be 0 and 1. And we will take our emission attribute, so f at emit, and multiply that by our height multiplier. So let's create this here, and then let's go from, I don't know, below the surface, -1. So this is basically from where we're going to have full effect, and then up until -10 or something. Let's see. Maybe try to cut off that last bit down there. There we go. And now we're just left off with the top part here. And this will also save us a lot of stuff. Jump back into our whitewater solver. Anything else that we should change here? Let's check our collisions. So we already added them in here. Let's make sure we turn them off. Yep, very good. The scale, we don't really have to change this since this is hooked up automatically to our flip simulation. And so the emission we changed. And one thing that we can do here is to reduce the overall, because if you remember from the flip book, not sure if we have that here. Yeah. So if you remember in the beginning, there's a lot going on underneath the surface until it finally reaches the surface. So there's going to be a lot of bubbles. And so we're just going to try to crank up the depth chance for the bubbles really high. So just set that to 100 so we don't have too many of them underneath, because that's just going to fill up everything and cost a lot of simulation time and just add too many points there. So just up the depth chance for those. And I think we should be good to go. Let's just give this a try and see what we get from this. So let's go ahead, send this to the farm, and then we'll see you once that is finished. Simulation is done, finally. There is a lot of points here. But if we really look close here, if we see if we can go inside, we can really see like the nice detail that we're getting in here with this clumping and these tendrils that start to form. Really, really beautiful there. Really like the new whitewater solver. It's so much fun. Here you can see like these patchy stuff creating there. And I think this will really show once we start rendering this. Our whitewater sim, that's fine. Let's just check for our mist simulation here. Wow, where is it? So this is the whitewater, and one thing that I do see that there's a lot of whitewater on the surface. So we want to go back here to our the rendering part of the whitewater and just adjust the water level P scale just to be a bit smaller to start off with. And then once we get to the rendering part, we'll see if this, if we have to even lower this even more. And let's just cancel the operation here. We don't want to cook this. And then what we'll do as well is just add a global multiplier of the P scale. So just drop down a Wrangle here. Let's cancel the cooking here. And let's just jump to manual mode so we don't have to interrupt it all the time. So let's just drop this here, and then we'll say modify P scale, and then we'll say F at P scale times equals, and then a multiplier. And then we'll set this to maybe to 3/4 of 0.75 or something. And do the same for the bubbles here. Maybe go a bit smaller because there's going to be a lot of bubbles. So probably half should work. And also for the bubbles, what we want to do is do the same for the density. Just lower this as well, since it's just going to be a lot. So f at density and then times 0.5. That should be good. Oops, probably have to type this correctly. Density. So what is next? The smoke simulation. I think we can just keep this as it is and just try to sim this. One thing that we do have to check is, oops, let's change this to auto mode again, is the bottom part. Let's try to modify that and get rid of a lot of this density so we don't have too much smoke at the very bottom. So we can just go ahead and grab our, where is it, our modification that we did here, and add this down here. So basically based on the height, and let's set the min value to 0 and the max to 2, something like that. Let's get this, is it on auto update? Oh yeah, I have to change this to density as well. There we go. And now you can see we're really cutting off all this high density stuff on the bottom. Yeah, I think this should work out pretty good because we do just want to have the top part emitting smoke. And if we would emit smoke from the bottom, it would just fill up quite a lot. So if you have a look at this here, there's a lot to emit from down there. And there's going to be enough smoke anyway from all this stuff that is falling down or that is coming up. So that's all going to trail smoke behind. And so I think if we change that there, that should be fine. Just before we cache or export this, we do want to change the resolution here. So let's go for 0.1. That should be fairly enough for this simulation here. And then also for our speed-based deletion, I think this was at 1. Just played around here. Let's just change this. So if we have a look here, if we bump this up, so basically, yeah, we're getting rid of things that move a bit too slow, so we don't have too much accumulation in slow-moving areas. Yeah, I think that should be it. Let's just combine these here. Make sure everything is working properly. And this should do fine for our smoke source here. So let's go ahead, cache this, and then we'll see you once this is done. All right, so finish caching this here. And now I think we can probably just, maybe just change the resolution here to match the above, so 0.1. And for the shaping, since we're simulating at a bit lower resolution, we want to change the scale there a bit. So if we head over to the power solver under the turbulence tab, for example, let's just up the swirl size a bit higher, 0.9 should be fine. And then for the disturbance, the block size, which is also specifying the size of the disturbed area, and let's just double this, change this to 0.2, which is the default anyway, because I think this comes in at, I think it's 0.2 is the standard smoke object. And then I think we should be good to go. Anything else we shouldn't really have to change. Let's just check our colliders. We do have I think we added this before in the collider section, so that is good. Water level, that's fine. So let's go ahead and simulate our smoke sim here, and then we'll come back in the next section. So I'm just going to submit this to, where is it, to deadline, and let's choose the selected node, dive inside, select the render node, and then hit submit. Nice. So if we have a look here, change the density a bit in our visualize node, 0.1 or something, go a bit lower. And then we have a really nice, obviously not full res now, So if we check the resolution here, this is not what is getting displayed in the viewport, since we do have our texture limiting here, but it's getting close. And I think this is getting some nice motion here. Let's see if we can go to a later frame. Probably have to check this in a flipbook, but I think for now this is fine. Yeah, looking good. Gonna have some nice smoky, misty stuff falling off there. And then speaking of which, we can continue with our mist here. I think this part here should be fine. Let me just check the emission points here, that we don't have too many. Just wait for this to calculate, since it's scattering the points into the whitewater simulation source. Let's see how many we have here. So a bit more than 500,000, but remember that in the simulation we're cutting off the bottom area. Let's check for the other side here. Yeah, maybe we want to go ahead and reduce this a bit. Let's see how many we have here. Also 500,000. So let's just do a percentage delete on the other side as well, and then just drop this to half, so 0.5. Maybe take a different seed here. And now, oops, probably have to do based on the point number, since there is no ID. All right. Or the ID is -1, which doesn't really help in this case. So let's jump inside here, quickly go over the settings, make sure everything is set up correctly. For the velocity, don't think we have to change anything there. The source is correct. We're not using any collision, so we don't have to add that in there. Our advection is fine, I guess. Not treating it as wind, which is good. The drag, don't really have to change any of this, I guess. I'm also killing inside the water and deleting below the water level down to 0.5, and that should be fine, since it's just the small particle stuff living inside the smoke. So I guess we don't really have to change anything here. So I think this concludes the whitewater and mist section. We can go ahead and simulate our smoke mist, and then we should be done with our ship simulation. Tongue twister there. And then in the next part we can continue doing the additional stuff, the ropes, so adding a bit of whitewater to those parts, but that should be fairly straightforward, I guess. So we'll see you in the next part.